So, Ann Kelley thinks that I'm not allowed to ask Jacqueline Mitchell if she's a right-wing sovereign. Hey, are you a Nazi? Why would you not be allowed? There's case law in Colorado that says you would need to know if a person is a Nazi or not because they would be attacking a Jewish person. Why would they attack a Jewish person? Well, they're a fucking Nazi. They're a Nazi. And there's people who are against fascism, anti-fascist. Well, the Nazis would hate them as well, would they not? So you need to know the motive to the crime. If a blood attacked a crypt and you're like, why the hell did they do that? Well, when you find out that one's a blood and one's a crypt, well, hell, that's the reason. They're a part of opposing gangs. So if we can't ask Jacqueline Mitchell if she's a right-wing sovereign, and the Westward article was not submitted, how is this fair? We have a right to subpoena. Let's listen to Sergeant Bauer about this.
Have a compulsory process fronted with the witnesses against him.
Listen to this. This is part of the Sixth Amendment. So Ann Kelley and Michael Gonzalez has not read the Constitution and they're not upholding constitutional rights. To have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor.
To have a compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor.
Okay, so thank you, Sergeant Bowers. Can't ask if Jacqueline's a right-wing sovereign. Why the fuck not? And the Westward World article was not submitted. There's a problem with right-wing sovereigns. Is Michael Gonzalez a Nazi? Is Ann Kelley a Nazi? I mean, why else would you object to that damn question? They want to protect their fucking idea of what they think is going on, and they want to do it viciously, and they want to do it maliciously. So I don't know precisely what they were thinking or doing, but it seems like to me that they're trying to provoke me maybe into losing my temper or making some inconsistent statement, something else similar in order to arrest me and haul me off to jail. So they had no case whatsoever, but if they could get me for contempt, if they could get me for getting mad, for being the victim of some dumb, petty harassment. And they never questioned any of these folks. The harassers weren't even interrogated. But the victim was. During the interrogation, Deputy Schultz had joked as an airplane flew overhead for me to watch out for it, since now even the random airplanes were out to get me. I told him about how one of the neighbors said that they were Crips. So Schultz said that I'm going to need to hike up one of my pants. So I asked him, so if I can't beat them, then I need to join them? He didn't seem to want to assent to that notion. Moving on to his next line of inquiry. The way that Schultz says that he interrogates people is he talks to them like they're dumb and stupid, and then they just tell them a whole pile of information. Well, you know, that's very contemptuous and that's bullshit. Why not actually treat people with respect and just ask them questions? I read in an article in Colorado, in fact, somewhere up north, about an old man who had called the police dozens of times, only to end up with the old man ultimately being shot and killed by the police themselves. Let's see if we could find where that case is. So you had an old man shot, killed by police, called 911 dozens times, and then this is all in Colorado. You just saw all that shit that happened in Aurora. They don't give a damn about the criminals. They don't give a damn about the criminals. So it's not popping straight up, so maybe I'll just have to look at it later. But the old man called 911 dozens of times, and then eventually he's going to get shot and killed. So, is that fucking genius? The criminals are fucking terrorizing him, robbing him, taking his shit, doing whatever, and he calls 911 thinking he's doing right, but if the cops don't protect you and the courts don't protect you, then you need to protect yourself. But then you fire a gun, and then one of the fucking criminals, they act like they weren't a criminal. Oh, officer, I wasn't doing nothing at all, and then he just fired warning shots at me, and I was so scared. Yeah, okay, you shit your pants, didn't you, Troy Zinn? Yeah, Kenny Capin, you shat your pants. And then I shat my pants. I was so scared, officer. So the old man gets killed and shot. That's basically getting swatted. He did what he was supposed to do. The cops didn't do a fucking thing. And then you get called out there a dozen times. You're like, this guy again. Yeah, if you think it's annoying to get called out in the middle of nowhere to investigate some shit you don't want to do, imagine what it's like to fucking be a victim of a crime over and over again and to have the fucking cops stick a thumb up their ass and then come there and harass you and harass you. The criminals are fucking with you, the cops are fucking with you. So which one of these piles of criminals are going to get you? And eventually the criminal cops killed that old man. That doesn't bode well for the fucking cops. You're supposed to protect and serve us. Why would somebody call 911 Just to fuck with you? What are you, a bunch of fucking psychology experts? Well, clearly he's crazy. Clearly it's his imagination. Clearly he's just saying that somebody, just sneezed around him and he got pissed off about the sneeze. Yeah, or maybe shit's happening and when the cops show up, they fucking duck down and wait for the cops to leave and then they start their shit again. You only got power when you fucking show up. They respect your fucking authority then, but once you leave, they own the fucking place. When it comes to that Aurora, in Aurora you got the Venezuelan gangs, and then the cops show up. There's no gangs here. We don't see any gangs. We're talking to everybody. That's a good start. Are you there 24/7? Be there for a month straight. They're saying there's fucking AK-47s in gangs. Don't just drive by. Don't just one day afterwards go talk to the people. Stay there for a month. Or hell, stay there. Why don't you get an apartment there and see what's happening? You would see it with your own eyes and you would feel the same danger and same apprehension that the people, the good people there. So maybe that old man in Colorado was crazy. Or maybe the old man had people committing crimes against him and he's just a citizen. So he can't go make the arrest. He could. He's got citizens arrest powers. But he's up against gangsters. 1, 2, 3 people with guns and AK-47s, ARs. He called his government in to help because he didn't have the power to do the job himself. Yet they did nothing. So what's he supposed to do as an old man? Take on the Nazis and the Crips and the MS-13 and the damn police? Take on the Leviathan all on his lonesome? And you know what? He probably did. I bet he held his own. And then he got the cops called on him for firing a couple warning shots. And then, unlike what they did for him, they actually believed the complainer. Yeah, we've been having problems with him for a while. Yeah, problems with him calling you and you not doing a damn thing. That's not problems with him. The conversation with me and Hummel and Schultz and the female deputy was being recorded. How come all this was gone? Where is the recording? Had some incident occurred, the video footage would still be here. But seeing as nothing had happened, not used to body cams, my guess is that they didn't properly store the body camera interrogation video anywhere at all. Isn't that tampering with evidence? I also shared with Victor Hummel of my idea of jail reform. I shared with Victor and Keith and Miss Lady Cop that I liked how Norway's prison system would treat people like people in order to restore their humanity. Victor Hummel, while harassing the victim, pretended to be a good guy, a good cop who's there to protect and serve us, but he wasn't. He didn't like the idea that we should treat people like people. Well, Victor Hummel perjured himself. And if you didn't want to do the time, Victor Hummel, then you shouldn't have done the crime. Send that bitch to fucking jail for 6 fucking years. Fucking right-wing criminal, fascist fucking criminal motherfucker. A perjury conviction can get 6 years in jail maximum. So have no fucking mercy on Victor Hummel. No, we need to treat you like the piece of shit that you are, you criminal motherfucker. Throw his ass in jail, and who gives a shit what the fuck happens to him? All the shit that happens in jail, people getting raped, people getting shanked, and then the police and the jailers don't know right from wrong, so you didn't protect me as a free man. I'm supposed to pretend you're going to protect. He committed the crime of poverty. And if he didn't want to do the time, he should have done the crime. Whisk him off to jail. Throw away the key. And then in 6 years, let's see if Victor Hummel has learned his lesson. And let's see if the jail system worked. He lied on stand. If he goes to jail for 6 years, you think that he'll lie next time when he's in court? And I wonder if he's right-wing sovereign too. All the cops in Costilla County should give a vow that they're not Nazis. All the cops in Costilla County should read Anne Frank. It should be required reading in Costilla County for any of the new hires that the sheriff recruits. They should read the diary of Anne Frank. One of the right-wing sovereigns said to me that it was the diarrhea of Anne Frank. Isn't that fucking funny? It's not funny at all. Anne Frank was a victim over and over again, and then ultimately she's going to get killed. She's one of the biggest victims ever, one of the most notorious, famous, one of the most famous victims in the world. So even though I'm being harassed by these cops, I still kept my composure. And after 20 or 30 minutes of the grilling by Victor Hummel and Schultz and the Miss Lady Cop, I forgot her name, I asked them to go inside, and then eventually they had relented. But I don't feel like that was the point. I think the point of them being there was to keep on harassing me. To keep on harassing me until I lost my temper. Because Victor Hummel, He testified that he didn't remember driving 45 minutes to a desolate edge of the county to ignore the guy doing the harassing and to harass the guy who was the victim of the crime, to talk about how criminals have a right to privacy and to share his opinion that fascist authoritarianism always works, and always will work. He forgot that whole conversation. He don't remember any of the things that was said or spoken. He doesn't remember Schultz being out there, the woman cop. He doesn't remember he don't remember any of that shit. He's a fucking lying motherfucker. And if you're willing to lie and do a perjury, a major felony right there in court, 6 years. You get 6 years. It's a class 4 felony or a class 5 felony. Class 4, I think it's class 4. So warning shots are all the worst thing in the world, but perjuring is even worse than warning shots, according to the scaling grade of Colorado. Either I got a very weird, fanciful imagination, sitting there talking about what he said about this and this, the harassment, the guy was shining lights, and then he pulls out. Nobody lives over there. Nobody lives on the edge of the property. So it's either just a fucking little party, a little tent party out by the fucking edge of the damn road, and then there's also a brick house that they were going back and forth to. So by ignoring what I was saying, did they rob that brick house? How many arsons? There was about a dozen arsons out there. So by ignoring what I was saying, they're allowing the criminals who live there to continue to do the fires and to do the crimes, to do the drive-by shootings, while pretending that a party with the motherfucker who was sitting there shining his lights on me. Now, I'll give him this. It was light harassment. It wasn't a major crime that day. But if somebody is speeding, a cop will pull him over. If somebody doesn't have a lamp out, their headlight, I just saw a cop pull a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old woman out of her car because she didn't give her ID quick enough or some shit. So a cop will fuck with you for driving a little bit fast or not having a tail light out. But motherfuckers doing fucking crimes, you can't go over there and ask him what he's doing, and he's got a right to privacy. Does he have a right to privacy? No, he don't. That's not constitutional. And then it's also, he's driving on the public roadway. What right to privacy does he have? Victor Hummel didn't remember any of this interaction. He don't remember any of it? Okay, I don't have a weird, fanciful imagination. I'm telling the truth. That's why it's not as interesting. I came to the story, and then they shot out the place, and then they broke the windows, and then I ran, and then they said, you better not tell the police, and then, yeah, it would be easier to lie. Instead of saying, well, then he drove over here, and then he drove over there. It's not a good story. And I'm not bragging about any of this. Victor Hummel is a liar, and he perjured himself right there on the stand. Jordan Peterson said that people don't pick on dangerous people. Predators pick on the vulnerable ones left by themselves on the playground. Jordan Peterson says that one should have a backbone to be formidable, to have the possibility of being dangerous, but to keep that power contained. To have a sword, but to keep it sheathed. So you don't want somebody to be a worm, but you don't want someone to be a criminal fuck. It's easier to be bad than it is to be good. You get to use violence if you're a good person in order to stop violence. But if you're a bad person, you could just be violent for the fuck of it, for the hell of it, for any reason at all. Maybe you got a legitimate reason. Maybe you just want to take that person's, vehicle and car and money and this and that. Cops can be bad, but cops can be good. There was this person who was trying to rob a cop, but he didn't know the cop was a cop. He was in his plain clothes. So the guy, he's parked in a remote, desolate area, and the cop is sitting in his car. And the gangster motherfucker comes up and wants to yank him out of the car to steal his car. And the cop immediately pulls his gun out and shoots him dead. And while I don't like to see anybody die and, property damage, but he was using, physical violence. And the cop shot him dead. If it was a citizen, the citizen would have had to have thought about, well, shit, how's this going to look to the cops? Do I do what I think is right? You try to fight the guy, use judo. Maybe he's got another guy hiding in wait, and then they shoot him, and now he's just dead, and they just took his car. So you don't want to be a criminal, over-the-top piece of shit. You also don't want to be a worm, a fucking worthless worm. So there's a middle ground. There's a balance. Have a backbone. Be formidable. Have the possibility of being dangerous, but keep that power contained. To have a sword, but keep it sheathed. The big lie. What did Hitler say when it came to the big lie? Donald Trump just recently, he said that he lied about the fucking Stop the Steal thing. He lied. He said that he lost the election by a whisker. He lost the election by a whisker. So Donald wanted to get the money. He wanted to get the donations. He wanted people to be pissed off on his behalf. He lost the election. He knew he lost the election. That's why he left the White House. But what did Hitler say about the big lie? Hitler says when it comes to the big lie, the only thing that you need to do is just tell the big lie. And to make it big and then repeat it over and over again. And that's what Donald did. What does the truth need to do in order to combat that insanity? Cut the truth down to a pithy bumper sticker? Oh, okay. Joe Canty threatened my life. Joe Canty threatened my life. He threatened my dog's lives and he threatened my property. He threatened me. He had a big rig. He jerked his steering wheel like he wanted to run up into my yard, drive over my dogs, drive over the fence, and to run me over. To think that a big rig isn't a deadly weapon? Oh yeah, but Sonia Massey with a little pot of water, that's a deadly weapon. Cars can have, there's vehicular manslaughter. Of course a vehicle could be a deadly weapon. And a big rig is like 3 fucking cars. What does the truth need to do what does the truth need to do in order to combat with the big lie? You gotta cut the truth down to a pithy bumper sticker. Joe Canty threatened me, my life, my liberty, and my property. And I have a right to defend myself and my property and my loved ones and my home. Just like Colorado's Constitution says. I read Colorado's Constitution and said, well there, I could just do Section 13. The cops didn't do their job, the courts didn't do their job, but clearly self-defense is common sense. Self-defense is enshrined in law. Common sense is legal. Common sense is Colorado law. Self-defense is Colorado law. And the truth is immovable, eternal, and objective. JFK's head went back into the left. That's the God's honest truth. Back into the left, meaning the shot came from the front to the right. That's the God's honest truth. It can't be disputed. It's on videotape. None of these subsequent presidents will tell us what happened to JFK. What, was the CIA involved? Was it LBJ? We're grown adults. We can handle it. In order to achieve justice, the objective truth must be known. In order to get the objective justice, we need the objective truth as a foundation. Our president was murdered, possibly by members of our own government. We're supposed to just keep on moving, keep on marching, as if his life didn't matter. If even our president's life didn't matter, then what right to anybody else, the Congress or the governors or anybody else in this country? If we can't even protect our president's life, we can't even establish justice for our president, who in this country is safe against the wanton fascism? We can't even get justice for our president, then who does this so-called justice system actually serve and protect? It's bad for America to ignore the reality. We need the truth in order for justice to be done. Mark Twain said that we must get our facts straight and then distort them at our leisure. Once you get the truth, then you can go ahead and try to mitigate the damage, try to minimize the damage, do damage control. But once you got the facts straight, Mark Twain also said that the truth is great because when a person is always honest, they never have to remember what they said in the past. Phil Greene was a criminal motherfucker. Robert Pickerel was a criminal motherfucker. There was a guy tapping his damn gun right on the side of his vehicle that just came from Robert Pickerel's house. Robert Pickerel sitting in a fucking truck of a guy who's doing a drive-by shooting. You know who knows what the fuck is going on? Robert Pickerel! And that's some of the bigger things. Nick Villela and Hiram Richardson were doing some small shit over there. But the person that murdered my fucking dog, the person doing drive-by shootings, Robert Pickerel fucking knows. And Phil Greene. And we're going to sit there and not get Phil Greene even though he's properly subpoenaed, not bring fucking Robert Pickerel in, even though he's in the middle of all this shit. Planning and zoning didn't give a fuck about Robert Pickerel fucking being an illegal settlement. So we're going to go after the lawful people who has to obey the law with everybody else. But the criminal motherfuckers that don't give a shit about you all, don't have morals, don't have laws, that goes around hurting anybody and everybody, they get to commit all the crimes against anybody that they please. Mark Twain also said a lie can encircle the globe before the truth even got their morning cup of coffee poured. Is that what the truth needs? The truth needs to be sexy, and the truth needs to be big and exciting. In order to compete against the big lie, does the big truth have to be succinctly cut as well and be repeated over and over again? Joe Canty threatened my life, my home, my property. Joe Canty threatened my life, my home, and my property. Joe Canty threatened my property and my life and my property. My loved one's life. My dogs are my practice kids. So you're telling me he gets to fucking drive by and threaten my kids' lives on top of... Get the fuck out of here. The big lie. To take a liar's lie and then to shove it down everybody's throats. To sabotage the other person. Why? To pretend like only you know how things work. Only you know what the law says. Only you can read English. Only you know what the freedom of speech and the right to not go around raping and murdering and maiming. Only you can read those laws, huh? To let the bad guys go and to punish the good person. Standing on the motion is fucking nuts. Corrupt courts who ignore goodness and the laws only hurt the good and the lawful, and they prop up the wicked and the criminal. And you know what? I'm not accepting this shit. I'm putting my foot down. There's something about the trial by battle. A trial by battle. They used to do that in the common law courts. A trial by combat. That's what Giuliani said. And there is some explanation. There's actually some logic to a trial by combat. Why is there some logic behind a trial by combat? Because if you're an innocent man, well, you'll be willing to fight for your innocence. A guilty man, what's he supposed to do? Engage in a fight? Go through all this rigmarole to defend his lies and his criminal behavior? So they would say, all right, you accused him of this and you accused of him. You two just fight it out, and whoever wins, that's who wins the court case. So there's some logic to it, because if you want to fuck over an innocent man, he's willing to fight in order to defend himself. And really, my God, those fucking pricks, all the motherfucking pricks at the courthouse, holy shit. The law is there to stop the bad guys from committing crimes. That's why the law is there. You don't want person A to injure person B. That's the main fucking point for the laws. There's no injury, then what the fuck are you even doing, you stupid motherfuckers? Nobody wants to be the victim. Oh, it's a victim culture. In a court of justice, if you're the victim, then you win. You get the compensation. You get the justice. If you want people just taking the law in their own hands and then just sorting the fucking bloody mess afterwards, yeah, will you be fair then? If you're the victim, you get satisfaction. That's how you establish justice. And if you don't, then you definitely need to realize that you're the victim yourself. Nobody wants to be the victim, but if you were the victim, recognize it, because if the courts and the cops aren't going to protect you, and they're not going to let you defend yourself, then you really have to ask yourself some serious questions. What can you do? Is there any possibilities? Is there any way forward? Do you need to become the sheriff? Do you need to move and just let them take your property and take your shit and let them deal with their criminal fucking immoral selves themselves? Nobody wants to be injured or robbed or exploited. Nobody wants to be a victim. Nobody. If you're the criminal, then you automatically, no matter how good of a damn lawyer you have, you should go to jail. And if you're an innocent, you should be let go. I'm standing on the motion. A corrupt kangaroo court can't issue any lawful decrees. A corrupt kangaroo court can only issue kangaroo decrees, especially against the lawful. This Mickey Mouse crap has got to go. You know how much harder it is to be the good man than the bad, to defend yourself, and to only defend yourself means that you must be strong enough to fight and be able to fight, but you have to wait for the other person to attack you first. And if they never attack you, then you cannot defend yourself. There's nothing to defend. A fight doesn't even happen. You train, and you train just like in Karate Kid. You train to defend yourself, not to be offensive, but to be defensive. And if, thankfully, nobody ever attacks you, then you don't have to attack them back. And a fight doesn't happen. You didn't train to fight to be a bully. You didn't train to fight to be a criminal. You trained to fight to make sure you protected yourself and your family and your neighborhood and your friends. A good man doesn't go around using violence and intimidation at whim To win hearts and minds, he uses persuasion and influence. But a wicked person, on the other hand, uses violence whenever the hell they feel like. It's a lot harder to be good than it is to be evil. It's a lot harder to be good than it is to be evil.